This is it, I guess. Let's go ahead and do the roll call.
David Foley here.
Gary Israel.
Vance Garwood,
Peter Fox.
Dan Colson.
thank you. Let's go ahead and move into minutes from April 15th.
Mr. Chairperson, I, Gary Israel, make a motion that we approve the minutes from April 15th, 2025 as presented.
Thank you,
David
Gary.
Foley. David Foley, second.
Okay, we have a second by Gary and a motion by Gary, second by Dave Foley. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Let's move on to committee and staff reports and potential development reports.
You may have noticed that on that potential development report that the building permits have slowed down dramatically this year. It's pretty much across the entire metro area that permits are down as much as 30% from last year. We're starting to see a little bit of an uptick in the last month or so, but I seriously doubt that we finish out at the same level as we did last year or the year before. So it's a reflection of the real estate market with the interest rates being much higher and construction costs being much higher. Affordability is a big thing right now.
Thank you, Les.
Those who are sitting on those 2% residential mortgages aren't moving. They aren't making changes.
Any questions for Les or staff? No, thank you, Les. Well, let's move on then to item 5.1, which is that final PUD of Vista Ridge. Staff, you have any comments on that?
You may remember a couple months ago, the developer presented a plat for this same area that was the entire parcel. Since then, he's decided that he wants to do the development in 2 phases. So he's provided us with this plat that just shows the first phase with only about half of the lots in the entire subdivision. I see Brian Lindeback is out there in the audience to represent the applicant.
If you would state your name and
Sure.
address. Yep.
Brian Lindeback, MKEC Engineering, 411 North Webb Road, on behalf of the owner and applicant. And this should be really easy. This is what you approved previously. It's just a smaller rendition of that. So, and of course, the road work is underway over there. So, kind of coordinating with that as well.
Mm-hmm. Questions of Brian?
Just for staff, my typical question is fire and police reviewed all this to see that it meets their criteria.
Yes. And the layout is the same as the one that they approved a couple months ago.
Okay.
Just half as many lots.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, thank you,
Thank
Brian.
you.
Thanks for coming. Really, I believe all we'd need would be a motion to approve it.
I'll make the motion. David Foley, Mr. Chairperson. I make a motion, we approve the revised final planned unit development for the Vista Ridge First Edition and recommend that the governing body accept the
I second that.
dedication.
When please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Let's move on to item 5.2, which is the preliminary PUD amendment for the Heritage. Let me get there. I now call agenda item 5.2, which is a public hearing on case number Z PUD 25-0007. Before we proceed with the hearing, I'll ask the commission members if any of them intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they or a relative have own property in the area of notification or have any conflicts of interest.
No.
None.
I now call upon the city zoning administrator to provide us with a report on this case.
This application is a pretty simple application. It takes a parcel in the Heritage PUD and subdivides it into 3 parcels in order to change the floor area ratio and the lot coverage to accommodate a 3-story indoor storage facility. It's very limited in its scope in that it is aimed at just that storage facility, because a storage facility doesn't require many of the things that other businesses would need. Circulation and parking are much less than they are for the typical retail and commercial uses that are allowed by the PUD. Again, Brian Lindeback is here to represent the owner.
Good evening again, Brian Lindeback, 411 North Webb, MKC Engineering on behalf of the owner and applicant. Thank you, Les. I think this is a fairly straightforward case in that the land use is already permitted. However, with the type of building that it is, it needs to be, a little bit more sizable. And so we've made these amendments on just this parcel 7 to the overall PUD. And if everybody is familiar with parcel 7, if you're not, it's the one on your right. If you know where the Dutch Brothers is, it's the parcel that we've amended is due north of it, as well as just the west of that as well. So, but yeah, that's the subject property.
Thank you. Any questions of Brian?
Brian, how tall will that building be if it's 3-story?
I don't know that I can specifically nail down an exact footage, but it'll be in the 30 to 40 foot range ish.
Okay,
Yeah,
less than 45?
I would
think?
think so, but we may have some parapets up on top and things of that sort to hide equipment and things of that. So yeah.
Okay.
Access is planned to be from the south. I know you didn't ask that question, but sometimes people want to know how the access will work. There's a common drive along the south edge of that parcel, and then there'll be a drive, north-south drive that would go into the the backage road there, and so access will be along those 2 points of, if you will, private drives.
Unless, is there any restrictions on height for storage facilities in our, man, I just went,
UDM, in the UDM.
yeah,
It's,
sorry.
the underlying zone is B5. And I was just digging for that UDM.
Gary, while Les is looking that up, I do believe in the corridor plans that have been revised over the years, is intended to have more of a taller building along the edge of the highway. So this would be in conformance with that. Overall, I think when we originally developed this plan, we were trying to just, be more conservative, but
So it'll be shorter than the parking garage.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Any other questions of Brian?
Oh, what type of material will it be made out of?
It'll be similar materials as what you see out there today. They'll make it blend in with the architecture. That, of course, will get approved at site plan review committee. But the intent, and I know the owner is working closely with the developer of the neighborhood to make sure it looks and feels like it belongs there. So, and I'm sure that the site plan review committee will help with that guidance as well.
I'm sure they will.
Gary, to answer your question, the B5 zone allows a 65-foot maximum height, but the Heritage PUD limits the buildings in this parcel to 3 stories.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this case? Has any written communication been received? No. By staff? No. Hearing no further public comments, I hereby close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the commission wishes to ask questions or clarify information. The Planning Commission will now deliberate the request. There are 14 factors which the commission must consider in order to make findings and ultimately a recommendation. Someone want to take those?
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead. Staff items. Number 1, do adequate sewage disposal and water supply and all other necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the subject property if the change in zoning were approved? Staff, public facilities are in place and adequate or could be readily extended to serve the property. 2, if the zoning change request was approved, would the subject property need to be platted or replatted or have in lieu of dedications made in order to provide needed right-of-way easements, buildings, setback lines, or access control? Staff, the subject property is already platted. 3, if the zoning change request was approved, would the subject property need a screening plan for existing or potential uses? All screening and landscaping would be per the heritage development requirements. 4, what fact-based information in support of or in opposition to the requested zoning change has staff received? Staff, none at this time. 5, if there has been an error in the application of the zoning regulations to the subject property, would the requested zoning change correct the error? Staff, no error is known to exist. Staff and commission council items. 6, how suitable or unsuitable is the subject property for its current zoning? Staff, the property is suitable for its current zoning.
Concur.
7, is the length of time the subject property has been vacant or undeveloped under its current zoning factor in the zoning change request? Staff, no.
Concur.
Concur.
8, how reasonably well suited will the requested zoning change of the subject property be with the current zoning of nearby properties? Staff, the requested zoning change is well suited to the current zoning of nearby properties, which are largely other properties zoned B5 business and several residential properties for which this use would be a good neighbor.
Concur.
Concur.
9, has the zoning change been requested because conditions in the area of the subject property have changed or are changing? If so, what is the nature and significance of these conditions? Staff, over time, several boundary shifts have taken place on the larger parcel 7 of the PUD. This amendment would reflect these changes. However, the mixed use and multifamily zoning in the area already support the proposed use amendment.
Concur.
Concur.
10, what are the current land uses, character, and condition of the subject property in the surrounding neighborhood? Staff, the subject property is surrounded by single-family residential uses and other highway business uses.
Concur.
Concur.
11, would the proposed zoning change of the subject property allow land uses which might have detrimental effects on nearby properties, and if so, how? Staff, while any development will likely have an impact on noise, light, and traffic levels in the area, the intended indoor storage facility would not create a large amount of noise or traffic due to the nature of how such a facility is used. Additionally, since this use would not require a large amount of parking, it is unlikely that lighting for such a lot would be present to create a nuisance to nearby properties.
Concur.
Concur.
12, how would the requested zoning change conform with the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted master plans and policies? Staff, the comprehensive plan shows this parcel as having the city corridor place type, which promotes denser business uses consistent with the applicant's proposal.
Concur.
Concur.
13, do any professional persons knowledgeable on conditions that affect this zoning change request have information or recommendations to provide which would be helpful in its evaluation? Staff supports the proposed amendment.
Concur.
Concur.
14, how would the potential loss in value or hardship imposed on the applicant compare to the relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare if there is a change from the current zone to the requested zone? Staff, no detriment to the public health, safety, and welfare is perceived. Any changes in light, traffic, or noise can be sufficiently mitigated with adequate screening and buffering.
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you. Having discussed and reached conclusions on our finding of fact, I would remind the commission that a proper motion should reflect the factors on which it's based, and if approval is recommended, the consideration should be given to any conditions that might be attached. Is there a motion to either recommend approval, modification and approval, or disapproval, or table the discussion?
Well, having considered the evidence at the hearing and the factors to evaluate the application, I, Gary Israel, move that we recommend to the governing body that case number Z-PUD 25-0007 be approved based on the findings of the Planning Commission on findings number 6, 8, and 12 as recorded in the summary of this hearing.
Thank you, Gary. We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. No. In my folder on sitting here.
There's no false.
Missed my folder. Would it be on another item that I could? It's up here.
Should have a no folder there. All restricted.
Oh, sorry, I'm not seeing it.
MIA.
It's okay. Do you think it would be on one of the other items, though? He said no. Here we go. Thank you. All right. Yeah, there we go. I might need your help, Les. There we go.
Yeah.
Right here. Sorry. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Official notices of these hearings were published on the City of Andover municipal website on April 26, 2025, and notices were mailed to the applicant and all real property owners of record in the areas of notification on April 25th, 2025. The record shows at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication of mailing dates and the hearing date. Unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I'll declare that proper notification has been given. That's not it either.
That's usually what you read first.
Right. What's that? Sorry. I know what we're looking for, I think. I could probably look at last month's. I know we had it last month. Oh, there we go. Last page. All right. Sorry, everybody. These cases will be forwarded to the governing body with the Planning Commission's recommendation and a written summary of the hearing for consideration at the regular meeting of June 10th, 2025. The recording of these hearings will be retained for at least 60 days after the final determination is completed on this case. Protest petitions against these cases, but not directed at the commission's recommendations as such, may be received by the clerk, city clerk, for 14 days after tonight, June 3rd, 2025 at 4:30 p.m. If there are properly signed protest petitions with accurate legal descriptions from the owners of record of 20% or more of the total real property owners within the official areas of notification, both inside and outside of the city, and not counting public streets or right-of-way of specific statutorily excluded property, then such a change will not be passed except by a 3/4 vote of all members of the city council. All right. Let's move on to 5.3 then. I now call agenda item 5.3, which is a public hearing on case number Z-PUD 25-0006. Before we proceed with the hearing, I'll ask the commission members if any of them intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they or a relative own property in the area of notification or have any conflicts of interest.
No.
None? I now call upon the city zoning administrator to provide us with a report on this case.
Mr. Chairman, Planning Commission, this amendment subdivides a PUD parcel again. Parcel 2 in the planned unit development is single-family residences as the proposed use. This application would subdivide that parcel into a 2A and a 2B, making some modifications to parcel 2B that would allow lot sizes that are a little smaller and lot widths that are a little smaller than the remainder of parcel 2A, where the uses and the lot dimensions, bulk regulations would remain the same. Again, it's still single-family residential, just on a bit smaller lots. Will Clevenger is here to represent the applicant on this case with Garver.
Thank you.
Good evening. Will Clevenger with Garver here tonight on behalf of the applicant. Address is 1995 Midfield Road, Wichita, Kansas. We're in agreement with Les had said, and this is just a subdivision that's going to be largely the same as that it is now. The streets are staying in the same place. Reserves change, or they're not changing. They're staying the same. Just think this would be a good fit for the neighborhoods, just staying single family. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All these new homes would be accessed by that road from the south, that Vintage Road.
Yes, and it was designed for not only for this phase, but also for future phases further to the north.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, you may recall that you've already seen a final plat on this parcel. It's since changed to a different developer, and thus the amendment in order to reconfigure these lots a bit. The water, sewer, and streets are already in place. It just rearranges lot lines around those existing improvements.
Thanks, Les. Any questions of the applicant? Thank you. Are there any members of the public that like to speak on this case? Any written communication been received? None? Okay. Hearing no further public comments, I hereby close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the commission wishes to ask questions to clarify information. The Planning Commission will now deliberate the request. There are 14 factors which the commission must consider to make in order to make findings and ultimately a recommendation.
I can read those if you'd like.
Great, thank you.
Number 1, do adequate sewage disposal and water supply and all other necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the subject property if the change in zoning were approved? Staff comment, public facilities are in place and adequate or could be readily extended to serve the property. Number 2, if the zoning change request was approved, would the subject property need to be platted or replatted or have in lieu of dedications made in order to provide needed rights-of-way, easements, building setback lines, or access control? Staff. The PUD is being amended in order to establish the final PUD, which is the final plat, on the subject property. Number 3, if the zoning change request was approved, would the subject property need a screening plan for existing or potential uses? Staff. Because the surrounding properties are either used for agriculture, not annexed into Andover, or zoned R2 in the same PUD, a screening plan would not be required. Number 4, What fact-based information in support or in opposition to the requested zoning change has staff received? Staff, none at this time. Number 5, if there has been an error in the application of these zoning regulations to the subject property, would the requested zoning change correct the error? Staff, no error is known to exist. Number 6, how suitable or unsuitable is the subject property for its current zoning? Staff, the property is suitable for its current zoning.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Number 7, is the length of time the subject property has been vacant or underdeveloped or undeveloped under its current zoning a factor in the zoning change request? Staff, yes. The applicant wishes to move forward with the construction of the 5th phase, which is pending this amendment.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Number 8, how reasonably well suited will the requested zoning change of the subject property be with the current zoning of nearby properties? Staff, the requested zoning change is well suited to the current zoning of nearby properties. The modified general provisions are reasonable for the R2 district.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 9, has the zoning change been requested because conditions in the area of the subject property have changed or are changing? If so, what is the nature and significance of these conditions? Staff, yes. Demand for housing in Andover has only increased, and the developer wishes to better serve this demand by building more dwelling units on the land.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 10, what are the current land uses, character, and condition of the subject property in the surrounding neighborhood? Staff, the subject property is located fully within the Tuscany planned unit development, which is made up of similar single-family homes.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 11, would the proposed zoning change of the subject property allow land uses which might have detrimental effects on nearby properties? And if so, how? Staff, construction of the subject property will increase noise, traffic, etc., but this amendment will not substantially affect the amount of each compared to the previous plan.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 12, how would the required zoning change conform to the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted master plans and policies? Staff, the comprehensive plan suggests a traditional neighborhood place type, which is consistent with the applicant's proposal.
Concur.
Concur.
13, do any professional persons knowledgeable on conditions that affect this zoning change request have information or recommendations to provide which would be helpful in its evaluation? Staff, staff supports the proposed amendment.
Concur.
Concur.
And 14, how would the potential loss in value or hardship imposed on the applicant